I'm Lone, and this is Banebush. It's a visual novel. It came out in December, has overwhelmingly positive reviews. I love visual novels, and actually on Steam right now, it's the Steam Visual Novel Fest. So, got it at a discount. There's a couple of other ones I wanted to play too that we'll probably get to this week, hopefully. But today we're playing this one, and it's very red. It's very Russian, apparently, too. So, new game, let's go. The entire game is designed by the author to be very, very red. Adjust the red saturation to your comfort level. I want full red saturation as intended. Yes. Yeah. Leave the settings at default for sure. Very red. You started the game with maximum saturation. Grandma Rita, where silence reigns, unlike the noisy cities. In the darkness that swallows the light, and amongst the dense forest near the village, a secret hides. People whisper tales about a creature living in the dark forest. This is the story of Banebush, a mighty Leshy. Few have ever faced him directly. Yet anyone stepping into the thicket feels his presence in every trembling leaf, in every creak of the trees. Beasts hide in their burrows, birds fall silent, and trees bow to the forest's master at the sound of his ancient roots moving. Is a Leshy like an ent? I don't know. I'm not sure. I've heard the word before, probably in like an RPG or something. Everyone's blood runs cold in his presence. He was feared more than any other creature. That's why he's called Banebush. Oh, there he is. I see him. He's got his little legs there. Well, they're pretty big. I don't know. It's hard to tell the scale of him. Sometimes as you wander the forest, you hear creaks and cries. Those are restless souls still roaming amongst the oaks, seeking peace for their wrongs against the Leshy. For centuries, villagers passed down the legend of Banebush, about how he drove travelers mad, leaving them lost in the forest, and his terrible deeds. Anyone who disrespected his realm faced his savage wrath and became food for worms amongst the ancient trees. Yeah. Leshy. Or is that Grandma? Fear the Banebush, child. And if you meet him, run without looking back. So what, he still roams our forest? Just listen. During the bloody times of the Patriotic War, our village fell on hard times. Bandits began raiding and tormenting the villagers. The strong men who could have resisted the hooligans were taken to the front. Only boys and young lads were left with the girls, no one to defend the village. So, those scoundrels run amok. They took the last dishes, stripped the village to the bone. Not the dishes. That's just mean. Only one brave boy decided to help the village. He ventured deep into the forest to find the Banebush. Our village was part of his domain, so he should protect it if properly asked. He was ready to do anything to drive those accursed outsiders from the village. For better or worse, the boy found the Leshy. We're gonna strike a bargain? I don't know what we would have to offer him, though. No one knows the outcome of their meeting. Some say Banebush took the boy under his protection, turning him into a wild wolf. In his new form, the brave boy tore apart all the marauders. But others claim Banebush destroyed the poor boy to ensure that no one disturbed his solitude. It doesn't matter who thinks what. What matters is neither the boy nor the marauders were ever seen again. I mean, that's okay, I guess. Sacrifice one boy to save an entire village and their dishes. In my childhood, Grandma told me many stories. Ones about the forest spirits and local folklore were my favorites. I'll always remember her tales with warmth. I especially love the stories about the evil Leshy, Banebush, who, according to legend, lived in the nearby woods. Grandpa often jokingly scared me, saying Banebush would come in the night and drag me into the forest if I didn't stop digging in the garden or misbehaving. A frightening, yet truly wonderful and carefree childhood in the village. I miss it. After Grandma's death, I inherited the house. Sometimes I feel ashamed that I didn't take care of it. I went once to handle the paperwork, but then never found the time. I'd like to sell it, but who wants an old ramshackle hut in the middle of nowhere? Who would have thought, but now the house has become more useful than ever. It's no secret that getting involved in criminal schemes can lead to serious trouble. Uh-oh, what are we doing? I don't think it would happen to me this time. I can only hope that Foeman and his thugs won't find me here. Oh, so our character got into trouble and he's like trying to find a hideout? Shit, okay. To lose a package of bagged drugs weighing a couple of kilos? Oh, shit. He lost a bunch of cocaine. Oh no. Fucking awesome. I went to pick up the goods outside the city. Everything was calm and smooth. I arrived at the spot, dug up what I needed, headed back along the same route. But on the way back, a car cut me off. Clearly, this didn't bode well. Before I understood anything, I saw hulking men stepping out of the black car with tinted windows. Give me the drugs, kid. Of course, with a gun to your head. Anyone would hand over the package of drugs without argument. My hide's worth more to me. I'm ready to swear that this was a setup by Foreman. Probably. Well, why would he set you up, though? Do you have something he wants? Or does he just hate your guts? Like, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. But I don't care. It's okay. Either way, I'm in deep trouble. I know full well how couriers are treated in these situations. Yeah, disposable. Go to the police? What's the point? What would you tell them? That someone stole your drugs? Yeah, perfect. Oh, what a fairy tale life. I just hope no one knows where I am. I left most of my things in the city. There didn't seem to be a tail, like anyone following him. I need to lay low. The journey to the village was quite long. Maybe that there was a chance to get a little more sleep along the way. Oh yeah, we look mysterious. Welcome to our village. It felt strange coming back after all these years, as if I'd been avoiding this place all along. During my absence, the village became completely abandoned. In my childhood, it seemed brighter, and there were more people. Now there's almost no one left here. Maybe a dozen old folks living out their days, and me running away from my problems. And no dishes! Maybe the dishes returned after the hooligans died. Who knows? I quickly found the road. In childhood, my neighbor friend and I often raced to Grandma's house from the bus stop. It seemed this path was forever etched into my memory. The house looked old, but stood sturdy despite years of loneliness. The roof sagged slightly, but looked reliable. The paint had peeled off, revealing the wood darkened by time. Yeah, this house needs a long and expensive list of repairs. I'm afraid it'll cost more than the house itself. Oh, okay, our first actual choice. Here, can I save? No, it doesn't look like you can save during the action. At least I don't think so. Oh no, you can save. There we go. Alright, cool, our first diverting path. I'm gonna look around a little bit first before we go in. After skirting the property a bit, I reached the backyard. On the crooked structure that once served as the base of a scarecrow, a raven sat motionless. It was frozen like a stone gargoyle and didn't flinch at my presence. With a tinge of sadness, I noted that the bird, monotonously blinking its eyes, was the only living soul that I'd encountered since getting off the bus. The entire plot was a muddy plain washed out by recent rain. God, what a dump, I thought as I looked at it. There used to be a big garden here, tended with elderly persistence by Grandma and Grandpa. Everywhere grew fragrant mint and lemon balm, which Grandma used to brew aromatic tea. That sounds delicious. Looking at the remnants of my grandparents' once glorious garden, I realized it died when its owners passed away. I shifted my gaze to the old stump, as I recall Grandpa used for chopping firewood. Looking closer, I noticed something sticking out of it. I walked closer. Is it an axe? Approach. Oh, it's just a knife. It's like a kitchen knife. Old rusty knife was stuck in the stump. I squatted and examined it closely. A couple of cracks in the time-darkened handle and noticeably dull blade in some places. Could be useful out here in the wilderness? I don't know. Yeah, I guess we could take it. I don't know though. Usually retrieve the knife from the stump behind the house. Usually if you have a knife and you're getting into trouble, it's like more trouble than it's worth and you're gonna get stabbed by your own knife. More than likely. I pulled the knife out of the soaked wood and weighed it in my hand. It was lighter than it looked at first glance. It might come in handy. Yeah, better keep it with me. Okay, we can go in now. I didn't find anything else of interest around the house, just dirt and boards and overgrowth everywhere. I didn't want to linger outside any longer. Don't let me linger any longer outside. It's very red in here. Oh, except for the little particle effects. Those aren't red. It's probably a good thing. The door yielded to my efforts with a loud screech. Or creak. The influx of air stirred the dust, making it swirl around the entire room. Everything looked as if time stopped from the moment I was last here. There are dishes! Sweet. Gas stove? Is it cold in here? On the stove, covered with a thick layer of greasy dust, stood an old kettle with worn spots on the body. Grandpa used to brew fragrant morning tea for Grandma and me, made from carefully ground and harvested herbs, mint, lemon balm, and oregano. Ew, oregano tea? I don't know about all that. Maybe a pinch of it? No, not even a pinch of it. I couldn't drink oregano. I remember during those tea times, Grandma was baking something delicious in the oven and telling me how Dad and Grandpa spent the entire day bringing the stove from the neighboring town. Whoops. History. I accidentally double-clicked. Oh, okay, no. Yeah, we're good. That was right after Grandma complained to Grandpa that her stone stove had cracked. At that time, gas was just being installed in the village, and the stove became a new wonder of technology for her, she liked to say. Photos. On the wall, there was an ornate wooden frame hung a photograph of Grandma Rita. Her face in the photo, taken of a folk tour, was calm with a faint trace of fatigue. There was nothing special about this photo, especially the quiet sadness of days gone by. On the shelf stood an old TV with a large crack in the screen. As far as I remember, it didn't work. Father accidentally broke it when we were sorting through the things in the house after Grandma's death. Back in the early 2000s, Mom and Dad brought it for the elders, spending part of their savings. I remember us all sitting together in front of it, listening to Grandpa swearing as he adjusted the antenna cable to get a signal. Now the TV was just a gloomy witness to past joys, silent and covered in dust. I looked around the room open before me, feeling how the house no longer felt as familiar as it once did. This was no longer a cozy summer retreat where I used to spend my time with great pleasure. Peeling walls, dust everywhere, a greasy bedspread, in a Prestokia era? I don't know, from the Prestokia era, and the smell of mold. I managed to pay for electricity and gas in the city, and there's enough food for tonight, and tomorrow I can go to the village store. After all, the house had everything needed to lay low for a while. You kept your cell phone? The time was 8:31 p.m. 2-bar signal, July 5th. Let's save. Just in case something bad happens. Of course, a couple of missed calls from friends. Maybe I should turn off the phone just in case. You should throw that phone away, man. Though I doubt Foreman would be able to track me through my phone. Yeah, I guess. You never know, though. You might have people in high places in the police department for tracking. Is that us? Okay. The bed, which had miraculously survived all this time, creaked. Old springs were felt beneath the thick fabric. God, what a dump, I thought. In my childhood memories, the house really looked better. It was alive. It's hard to imagine how my grandparents lived their whole conscious lives here. I think they would have been happy anywhere together. Mom said that when Grandpa died, Grandma took it really hard. Her health quickly deteriorated, and she refused to go to the hospital in the city, no matter how much Mom insisted. Less than a year after Grandpa's death, Grandma passed away. That kind of happens sometimes. I hope they're happy together now. Alright, I need to stop thinking about sad things. It's depressing enough already. Ugh, stop ruining an already lousy mood. Maybe I should have some tea? Sure. Ignite. But we don't have any... I don't have any items. The flame ignited. Looks like the gas is on. Sure, just turn the gas on and go to sleep. That sounds good. Damn, it's all such a blur. Thoughts about the bastards I'm hiding from wouldn't leave my mind. How long can I stay holed up in this dump like a mouse? A moth? For like a year? Oh, a month, not a moth. I was like a moth. No, a month? Like a mouse, a month, a year. And if they find me, then what? Well, you'd probably die. It's clear they won't listen to me. First they'll break my fingers, then toss me off the bridge into the river. Maybe they'll give me a chance to work it off, and then I'll have to slave away for them for free for who knows how long. Easy money turned into problems I don't know how to fix. In endless attempts to figure out how to cover the loss, I achieved nothing. My savings were around 90 grand earned in my spare time. Damn, dude, that's pretty good. I don't know what the conversion rate for rubles is, but I mean, it's probably not very good, right? Rubles to dollars. So that maybe that's kind of like a pittance of a savings. I'm not sure. It sounds like a little tiny sizable chunk of change. Maybe it's like 5 grand or something. I don't know. I'm just like spitballing numbers. Of course, that's not enough to pay them off and replace the goods, and I don't have the right connections. The package delivery coordinates were given anonymously, and the only person I know, Pasha Foreman, a recruiter in this business, and incidentally, a 2-meter tall boxer and enforcer. Oh, sweet. Now I regret abandoning my attempt to succeed in tech repair, but back then, it was a struggle to make ends meet. What happened? Did we sleep? With the gas stove on? It's perfect. I started to drift off to sleep. One by one, childhood images came to mind. Children's laughter, bright sunlight, happiness, and so much red. And no responsibility. My biggest fear back then was Grandma scolding me if I didn't come home before dark. If only I could stay in that moment, I'd never have ended up in the situation I am now. Unfortunately, time doesn't lie, and life moves on. I dreamt of the football field. That was the pride of our village. Sturdy goal, even with nets, just like the real football players. As kids, we could play football on that field all day long. Friendship, laughter, gum, fresh air. And in the evening, Grandma waited at home with warm tea and the most delicious food in the world, made with love. In the dream, a memory appeared as if it were real. One evening in midsummer, I decided to take a shortcut through the forest to Grandma's house. The local boys said you could noticeably shorten the route if you went straight through without turning. I was running late for dinner because of an overly long game of football. And the forest surrounding the village was very dense and impenetrable. It rustled with the many voices of nature, as if trying to drown out the sounds of the village bustle. Grandma and Grandpa never let me wander through it, warning me I'd get lost and a wolf would take me away. I moved straight ahead, confident that I was heading in the right direction. The sunlight filtered through the thick branches, casting a play of light and shadow on the ground. The forest sounds grew more eerie. I began to feel as if someone was watching me. The thicket grew denser around me, and I started to realize I'd been walking too long, even though the boys said it wasn't that far. Wandering along the forest path and aimlessly weaving between trees, I completely lost my way. I'm lost. I'm gonna die in the forest, I thought, on the verge of tears. Oh shit, we get to choose? Left is best. Left. Here. Hold on. Safe. No, safe. Safe, please. Here. Okay. So we could either choose to not take the knife or not light the gas stove too. I think lighting the gas stove may have been a mistake. Left. I mean, it's a circle if you do 4 lefts. We would turn 360 degrees and then walk away. Because it doesn't matter too much. We can just kind of aimlessly wander. I've been lost in the forest before when I was a kid with one of my friends. And we just kept walking and walking. And then we like popped out of this path and there was a bunch of tourists like looking at plaques and stuff. And turns out that we were like walking so far that we busted into a national park. And like we had like fucking leaves and twigs in our hair. We were like dirty as shit. And we just like popped up out of the forest. And it scared a couple of people. They're like, what the fuck? It was like the funniest shit ever. Oh God. Laughed so hard. We went far, like miles far. It was a little scary, but we found our way back. There's a lot of things in those woods that we found. Some creepy things too. A couple things I actually want to write about. Particularly, there was a abandoned cottage there that had and it looked like it was a big pool of water, but it was also connected to like a slight river that had kind of run dry, and there was a like dilapidated boat half sunk in front of the cottage with like a boat launch there. We never went in. I wanted to go in so bad, but yeah, one of my life's regrets is not going in there. It was beautiful too. Just lily pads, emerald green. No sound from the water though. It wasn't that big of a lake or anything. It was more of a pool of water. Pretty big though still. Straight? Did we get something? Oh, I think we got a hit. The dense grove stretched endlessly. The crunch of dry leaves echoed underfoot, and the air was filled with the forest's scent. I took a deep breath, hoping to catch the scent of pine needles and fresh moss. But a stench seemingly came out of nowhere, suddenly hit my nose, making me feel nauseous. I grimaced and held my breath, peering into the thicket. Ah, fuck! Suddenly, a dark and terrifying hunched figure leapt out of the forest. A monster, wrapped in roots like armor, materialized amongst the trees and stared straight at me. My heart pounded in my chest, and a long scream escaped my mouth. Without realizing it, I bolted with all my strength. I leapt over obstacles, scratched myself on bushes, anything to keep me from stopping. My lungs felt like they would burst, but I kept running. Run without looking back. Whew. Maybe we would have been stuck in the dream if we hadn't have put the kettle on. Creepy. It did get me, the jump scare. Doesn't happen that often. Yeah? My first reaction to the dream slipped out loud. God, what a load of crap. I'd almost forgotten about that incident. So it was real. Okay, the Leshy part was real. Back then, crying and scratched up, I ran home shouting, "Grandma, I saw Banebush in the forest." After my outburst, Mom gave me a hard scolding, saying that her scary tales were driving me crazy. Seems like it was after that incident that I started having nightmares so often. So maybe Mom was right. Without Grandma's creepy stories, I might have been less jumpy. I long ago convinced myself that back then, my overactive imagination mistook a tree or a stump for a monster. I still don't know what I saw that day, but one image always remains in my memory of it. A Leshy, just as Grandma described in her tales, stood in the middle of the forest, staring at me with its red eyes. Well, it's red everything. No! What? My thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock on the window as if someone had thrown a stone at it. Oh, shit. The coke dealers found me. Fuck. They couldn't have tracked me, could they? That was too quick. There, save. Save. There we go. Okay. No, Foreman shouldn't even know about this place. Unless he tracked me through my phone? No, that's just paranoia. I don't want to cut myself off completely. I need to check what it is. Look. This is a good visual novel so far. It's really well written. Or localized, at least, too. The translation's great. There was nothing outside the window. It was just a yard as usual. It was just run down. If life gets better, I'll definitely tidy the place up. My grandma and grandpa really love this place. I need to pay my respects to my departed relatives. Ah, birds! Fuck! He threw his phone. The raven. Where are you flying, you crazy bird? Totally lost it, scaring me like that, you lunatic! This kind of stress could send me to an early grave. City or here, it's a madhouse. Oh, I need to relax. Just pour some tea and eat something. I cleared the table and started preparing my first dinner in the village in a long time. I pulled out bagels and a couple of candies from my backpack, hastily that I bought from the kiosk at the station. I brewed myself some green tea with mint. Funny, it looked just like it did in my childhood. These were good times, though even last week wasn't so bad. Pushing away gloomy thoughts, I took a sip from the mug, imagined that it was the same tea my grandma used to brew me as a child. But alas, the taste was far from the same. I felt a little better. But I couldn't sleep peacefully without making sure another bird wouldn't fly into my window at night. It was already dark outside. I looked around, trying to spot that crow, but there was no one in sight. The same overgrown yard and dense forest with trees swaying gloomily in its shadows. After a long day and a warm drink, I felt sleepy. Time for more nightmares. Tonight I could really use a good rest. But as always, anxious thoughts crept into my mind before sleep. It was pleasant. A coffin with my body slowly lowers into the grave. These are bad dreams, my friend. Each thud of the earth on the lid sounds like a final heartbeat. I'm gone. Just cold and silence remains. My body will dissolve into the earth, decay, and become food for worms. Mom will stand at the grave, her eyes swollen with tears, unable to believe that her only son is now in this wooden box. Will she think it's some mistake? That I'll rise at any moment and hug her? That would be more scary. What will I leave behind? A huge debt of cocaine. That's what you'll leave behind. Everything that seemed important will turn to dust and rot with me. I'll be forgotten. Everything I did, good or bad, it'll all be swallowed by the earth. That's mortality, my friend. It's the price we pay for being human. fade into obscurity and forgotten eventually. I don't like this. Why is there so many bugs? Flies. In the dead of the night, something suddenly yanked me out of my sleep. The village nighttime silence was defiled by an incessant, nerve-wracking buzzing. A stubborn fly, as if choosing me as its nighttime victim, relentlessly disturbed the peace. Persistently tried to get into the house. It seemed to be testing my patience. I don't want to look at the bug. All right, we'll look at the bug. What do you want? Shoe fly. I got up from bed and looked at the window at the silhouettes of the dark forest swallowed by the night. The stubborn fly incessantly crawled on the glass. I stood watching the insect, feeling anxiety creep over my mind for no apparent reason. Knock, knock. Knock it off. Ah! Double flies! Triple, quadruple! Oh no! Knock, knock, more! Oh Jesus, that was huge! That was the size of like a small child. You completed the first chapter. Aw, cute little kitty cat. I like that. I like these little stamps. They're really cool looking. Boop. Chapter 2. I don't know if we'll get all the endings. I might be happy with the ending that we get. We'll have to see. This ancient mattress feels like it was specifically designed to destroy my back. As usual, I woke up drenched in cold sweat, thanks to another stress-induced nightmare. Well, no comfort, but I'm alive. It's a fair trade, I guess. Outside the window, it was gray and an overcast day. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything good will happen today, but I'm used to that. Stretches! Hoo, ha, hoo, ha, hoo, ha. Good job. After stretching a bit, I decided to take a walk around this godforsaken village. I kept thinking about the local store. Hopefully it hasn't closed yet. Otherwise, I'd have to rely on my childhood survival skills to go stealing apples from abandoned lots. How simple and carefree it would be to wander around looking for dubious food, if only for my current less than legal affairs. But who am I without them? I need to stock up on food for a couple days and see what's going on around here. Maybe I'll run into some of the locals, get the news, find out how life has changed in this corner of the world since I was last here. Okay. The early morning in the backwater was wrapped in an eerie calm, as if everything here was dead, not just asleep. The air is fresh, as if it was just washed with fabric softener, in cold, and it cut straight to the bone. For July 6th, it was unusually cold, almost jacket weather. Still, there was something about this morning's scenery that momentarily brought back a taste of life. It felt like I was 12 again. I remembered how, as a kid, we'd run around here early morning, darting between houses with the neighborhood boy, under the grumbling shouts of old folks and the barking of dogs from other yards. The air filled my lungs, and my head even spun slightly from its freshness. The scent of grass and damp earth surrounded me, and it felt pleasant. It was unusual to breathe so easily, not as unusual with the city dust and grime. Walking through the quiet village, I seemed to slow down myself, adapting to its rhythm, its leisurely pace of life. The silence and calm around me unintentionally made me reflect on the past and ponder the future. I looked at the empty windows and the peeling walls. People used to live here, but now everything is crumbling, as if mocking my memories. Now there was only decay and an oppressive sense that the past was irretrievably gone. I was almost at the store when my gaze caught on a house on the left. Once a sweet old lady lived there, a darling granny, Babushka. And she always sat by the house, offered us apples if we could show her where the Big Dipper was in the sky. Of course, we didn't know where the Big Dipper was and just pointed randomly at the sky. Granny didn't seem to care. She gave us apples anyway, chuckling to herself. Now her house was already leaning and completely overgrown with bushes. Must be that one. But the apple tree behind the house was still standing. Maybe I could pick just a couple apples for breakfast. At least I'd save some money. Oh, my stomach was already growling with hunger. It was time to decide where to get food for the day. To the right was a store where I figured I could grab a bite, assuming there was anything left inside. To the left was the abandoned lot with the crooked fence behind which the apple tree still stood. Oh, the left. Okay, it's that one. I stopped, pondering where to go. I saved is what I did. Anytime there's a multiple choice or a chapter, I save. What do we want to do? I say we go left. Apple tree. Apple's not very good breakfast though. It's not that filling. The plot of land looked abandoned up close, windows covered with murky stains, trash scattered in places, and the garden overgrown with dense thickets. It seemed no one had set foot here for years. Right in front of the fence stood an apple tree, probably the same one that funny old lady used to pick apples for us. Despite the overall neglect of the plot, the tree looked beautiful and lush. Some branches even had something growing on them already. Apples! I stepped closer, treading carefully on the ground, glancing around furtively. The crooked fence and the rotting board seemed to plead, "Don't touch me." But I wasn't planning to stop. One of the upper branches I spotted an apple, seemingly almost ripe, yellow with a slight red blush. It's pretty high. I hope I don't fall. But since I'm already here, there's no turning back. Climb? Sure, it's our only choice. I placed my foot on the edge of the fence and leaned on the board, which immediately creaked, nastily, but it still held for now. Dude, that board creaked nasty. I reached out to the tree, my fingers almost brushing the coveted apple. The fence beneath me creaked, one board already starting to wobble. Just a little bit more. Just a little more. Pluck. Oh, click. Oh, I can click. There you go. How about that? Hiya! The Big Dipper lady? She's still alive? No way. If she was old back then. Hello? Ah! Why you gotta creep me out, Granny? The first thing I felt upon regaining consciousness was the worn springs of an old couch digging into my spine. My head throbbed, my whole body ached, reminding me of the fall from that damn rotten fence. Where am I? The obvious question popped into my head. Oh, it's nice here. Not as bad looking as it was outside, except for the creepy doll. A doll in the cupboard stares at your soul with glassy eyes. Its hair is tangled and its dress is faded. Any other doll would look like an innocent toy, but this one, it's as if it's watching. Creepy. There's a chair right in front of us and a calendar with an icon. An old calendar with an icon on the wall, darkened by time, lovingly framed with fabric. The Virgin Mary gazes sternly like a grandmother who always knows when you've done something wrong. Where are those 2 kilos of coke? That's what Mary's saying right now. Where's the coke? He did it. Ain't no way that he lost it. It's just an excuse. Her gaze stirs unease in your soul, as if you're already guilty of something. Yes, you're guilty. Even though you've done nothing yet. Oh, so says you. You've been running drugs and you lost them. It's not really his fault. I mean, he shouldn't have been doing it in the first place, but I don't know his economic situation. His financial situation could be fucked. Well, it sounds like it's fucked. He did make some savings though, so that's a good thing. It's just bad luck, I guess, on his part. An old wooden chair. Just looking at it, I can hear it creaking plaintively. It stands across from the bed as if someone had just been sitting there, leisurely sipping tea and watching me while I was unconscious. Creepy. I cautiously surveyed the room. The room was shrouded in semi-darkness with a sharp, sour scent lingering in the air. Suddenly, the door to the right creaked open with a prolonged groan. Damn, she can move fast. She's super fast. Holy shit. Oh, she's gonna make it. Keels over. No, she made it. Okay, good. Thank God. A short old woman, a proper granny type, sat down in the chair next to me. She stared directly at me, cautiously, as if trying to peer into my soul. So, you've woken up, you loafer. She muttered under her breath with a hint of satisfaction. I thought I'd have to call an ambulance from the city. Where did you drop in from? From the apple tree, I almost said aloud. Obviously, I couldn't stay silent since I'd been trying to steal from her garden, and now I was sitting in her house. But telling her I was hiding from criminals would be dumb. She might call the cops on me. I could just say I came to my grandmother's house. I mean, yeah, that's totally believable. Or lie and say that I'm looking to buy a house here. That's an option. No, I came to my grandmother's house. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Oh, I should have saved. Well, now it doesn't really matter. I guess. Well, I choked, unable to finish even the first two words. Swallowing hard, I tried to continue. I came to visit my grandmother's house. Margarita Provola. Have you heard of her? She's not a mixed drink, I promise. She's a real person, not a mixed drink. Well, I'll be. She exclaimed, bouncing slightly in her chair. Loshekna, is that you? Just the other day, you were running around the village as a kid, and now look at you, grown as tall as a tree. Well, if I was as tall as a tree, I wouldn't have had to use the fence and slipped and broke myself, but yeah. Pretty tall. Do you still remember Grammy Nura? I silently nodded in response, trying to pass as one of the locals, forcing a smile to mask my growing tension. You were one of the locals. You used to live here. She recognizes you. How did she even remember me? It's been so many years. So what brought you into my garden? Apples. I wanted to make some excuse, but all I could think of was something about apples. I saw an apple. I thought I could pluck it and eat it. I replied with a hoarse voice, still trying to pull myself together. Well, well. Sneaking around other people's gardens, huh? Look at you, all obsessed with apples. Rita would have given you a good scolding for that. Just last week, she promised to bake me some pies. Said she'd visit, but something must have come up. Last week, I froze. A cold wave of unease washed over me. She's been dead for a while. Pies? What pies? My grandmother passed away a long time ago. I swallowed hard, tried to convince myself that the old lady was just confused, which is a possibility. But she sounded so certain, as if there wasn't a shred of doubt in her words. To her, Rita was definitely alive. Maybe it was just senility, or maybe something more serious. She wanted to have tea with me and tell stories, just like she always does. You know, I just ran into her recently at the store, your Rita. She was standing there, waving at me, but I didn't go to her. She seemed odd, not like she used to be. A chill ran down my spine. The old woman looked up at me as if she had really seen my grandmother alive recently. At the store? I stammered, repeating her words, feeling a sharp pang in my chest. Yeah, at Stefan's store. Where else? She confirmed with a nod, then suddenly her eyes lit up as if she'd remembered something important. Listen, Alexei. I'm not going to use the last name. Granny Nura leaned towards me with a loud exclamation, making me flinch and step back. Not noticing my tension, she continued. I still have that book of hers. I kept meaning to return it, but I never got around to it. Then just give it back, sweetheart, please. Give it to Rita for me. Yeah, I could do that. While I struggled to think of how to respond, she had already stood up and started rummaging through the old bookcase. Granny Nera pulled out a small worn book. She walked over and handed it to me with her trembling, bony hands. Here, pass it on. Tales of Monsters. Yeah, we can take that. I took the book in my hands, and it felt as time stood still. I recognized it immediately. It was my grandmother's collection of fairy tales with yellowed pages and a worn cover. Grandma used to read it to me often when I was a child. The Crook Hag, a tale about a terrifying swamp hag who lured travelers into a rotting bog, disguising herself as a frail old woman with a gaunt face and a dull, tearful eye. She sat at the edge of the path, groaning and sighing, whispering in a raspy voice, "Help me, my dear boys, help me." And the moment some kind soul reaches out to her, the old woman's visage would crumble before their eyes. Dry skin cracked and peeled away in strips, revealing the face of a monster, a twisted grin, rotting teeth, and sharp, beastly claws. I remember how Grandma told the story in her deep, raspy voice, as if the Crook Hag herself was lurking in her breath. There was also a story of a Watchone, a freak with a single crimson eye in the middle of its forehead. Grandma described how he would leap out of the forest. As twilight fell and branches cracked, a Liho came, and its shadows packed. I still remember, I chuckled. There was something about how the Watchone attacked people. Flesh tore to shreds, blood splattered everywhere. You know, the usual gruesome stuff. Grandma knew how to captivate me with another creepy tale, her favorite listener, ensuring I'd have psychological scars. Yeah, these stories were definitely her style. They didn't have much moral or deep meaning. They were just good old-fashioned creepypastas. Just creepypasta. This whole thing reminds me of a creepypasta, kind of. Turning a few more pages, I froze. A little bit more literary than creepypastas, though, that's for sure. The writing's definitely, better than your average. Banebush. Oh, this was my favorite story. Maybe because of that childhood incident in the forest. It felt the scariest, the most poignant to me. I closed my eyes, completely consumed by the memory. Uh-oh. We're going out of consciousness again. Help. Babushka, help me. It's Grandma Rita talking. It was a long time ago. So long ago that neither you nor I were even a thought yet. But back then, as now, the forest surrounded our village on all sides. So dark and dense that the branches of the trees formed an impenetrable wall, kind of like Darkwood. Light barely penetrated, and the canopies rose so high that the sunlight couldn't filter through the leaves. This forest was no ordinary one. They said ancient powers lived there, feared and respected by both people and beasts. Villagers ventured curiously into the thicket for mushrooms, berries, or firewood, always returning before nightfall. And children were warned not to wander into the forest alone and run straight home if anything were to happen. At night, if you listen closely, you can hear the rustle and faint whispers, as if the forest itself was warning those who ventured too close. And in the very heart of the forest lived the Leshy. Stories say that the master of the forest was always stern, strict, and powerful. He knew every path, every blade of grass, every creature hiding in the dense thicket. He watched over the entire forest through the eyes of birds. He didn't tolerate uninvited guests, and those who dared disturb his peace rarely returned. But the Leshy had something dear to him. Oh yes, he wasn't always alone. He had a granddaughter, Vixie. Oh, and what a sly and swift little fox she was. People said the little one melted the Leshy's heart, and from then on, the forest became brighter and friendlier under her care. In the form of a fox, she could run through the forest, but when she wished, she could turn into a little girl, shedding her fox guise. She grew up under the Leshy's wing, cheerful and lively. She loved the forest, knew all its secret paths like her grandfather, could talk to birds and play with hares. But you know, dear, Vixie was drawn to the village. Even though she grew up in the forest from infancy, her origins were, no matter how you looked at it, human. As soon as she grew a little older, she started begging the Leshy to let her go play with the village children. The Leshy, though strict, gave in eventually. How could he resist his beloved granddaughter? He was reluctant for a long time, but he loved her so much that he eventually agreed, only sternly commanding, "Be back before sunset." You see, Vixie, though she turned into a girl, would become a fox again as soon as the sun set. So she would run to the village from the forest, introducing herself as a neighbor from the other settlement. The boys and girls welcomed her joyfully. She ran around, played with them, and brought mushrooms and berries from the forest to share with everyone. Vixie charmed everyone. Oh, how lively and cheerful she always was. The boys completely lost their heads. They fell in love with her. They even gave her a polka dot scarf, no gift more precious to her. She treasured it, kept it as if it were her most valuable possession. But one day, after an especially joyful day, Vixie was heading home when suddenly, like a blow to the head, she stopped at the edge of the forest, wanting to adjust her scarf, but it was gone. Her hands trembling, she searched herself, but she couldn't find it. The girl panicked, tears streaming down her face. What a disaster! Without thinking, she ran back to the village, but the sun was already sinking, about to disappear below the horizon. The boys helped her look for the scarf, but it was too late. They found it, but the sun had almost set. Long shadows stretched their claws into the ground, heralding trouble. Vixie darted towards the forest, back to the Leshy's home, but the boys grabbed her by the hand. Don't go, Vixie. At night, evil spirits roam the forest. They'll drag you away. You'll be lost." She didn't make it back to the forest before sunset. Right before the children's eyes, she turned into a fox. Vixie tried to explain herself to them, but the people didn't understand the language of foxes. The children were terrified, thinking some forest spirit was tricking them, and fear, Loshekna, makes imaginations run wild. One of them picked up a stone first, and then the others followed. They struck her, not realizing what they were doing, their eyes wide like frightened rabbits. No. The Leshy stood at the edge of the forest as usual, listening to the whispers of the night, when suddenly everything fell silent. Nature itself held its breath. He immediately knew something was wrong. His granddaughter had never been gone this long. Worry slithered into his heart like a snake, squeezing it with cold coils. He searched for a long time, inspecting every bush, every path, his heart aching more with each moment of foreboding. And then, oh, what a sorrow, at the edge of the forest, beneath a tree, lay Vixie in her fox form, beaten to death. Beside her laid a blood-stained scarf, the very one the boys had given her. The Leshy slowly knelt, looking at her, and a fire rage ignited within his chest. His heart hardened in an instant, and the body sprouted red branches and roots. In his rage and grief, the Leshy killed everyone who crossed his path. The earth throughout the region was soaked in blood that day. And he retreated to the heart of the forest, hiding amongst the trees. After that night, the villagers began calling the Leshy Banebush, because no creature more terrifying could be found. Dude, it's so fucking good. Holy shit, that was so good. Man, this is a good visual novel. I'm loving this. Brushing away the haze of memories, I snapped the book shut. Yeah, it's all like the little side stories and like little like ponderings and meanderings in his head that are like so interesting. The story, though my favorite, always left a heavy feeling. Yes, Granny Nero, I'll make sure to pass it on. Oh, let me pack some apples for you to take with you, she muttered with her creaky voice. Granny Nero moved to the next room, surprisingly agile for her. No, she's not. It took her 10 minutes to get to the chair. She's not agile at all. I can see her doing backflips and shit. I quietly made my way to the exit, hoping to avoid any attempts to prolong the conversation. Here you go, and send regards to Rita. Tell her to visit more often. But first, dear, show me where our... Wait, what? Granny Nero paused, looking as she had forgotten the right words. Point to the sky? Safe. Safe. I'm gonna run out of slots. Here, point to the sky. I immediately realized what she wanted to hear. The Big Dipper was over there, Granny Nero. I said confidently, randomly pointing a finger at the sky. That's what it was, yeah. You made Granny Nero smile. Granny Nero handed the bag of apples, stretching her wrinkled lips into a toothless smile. Yeah, thank you. I awkwardly thanked her for the treat and quickly left her house. I'm so glad we went here instead of the shop. I mean, I kind of wonder what the shop is going to be about. I wonder if I could reload if I saved and reloaded. Did we? Here. Yeah, there's the shop right there. Maybe I'll do that later. I want to keep continuing on though, as we are now. I'm happy with this. What was all that about? Granny clearly had memory issues. It's amazing that she recognized me despite all that. Looking at the bag of apples in my hand, I remember falling off the rotted fence, and a question suddenly arose. How did the old lady even drag me into bed? That's true. She's super strong and agile. She got granny strength. Yeah, well. As I approached my new home, I was already anticipating flopping onto the creaky, prehistoric bed with a contented look on my face. But it seemed fate had other plans. Oh no, did they find me? Oh no! It's a hatchback, right? But it's only a 2-seater. Or maybe it has back seats. I don't know. I'm trying to judge how many people are here now. In front of my house stood an old Lada 2108. And I could make out 3 familiar faces inside. Oh yeah, there are more than 2 seats. Oh shit. It was Pasha Foreman and his goons. Vyasa and the third one. I can't remember his name. I probably couldn't pronounce it even if I knew his name though. No, run away! We got a knife. That ain't gonna do shit for us. Okay, yeah, he's big. The other 2, we can take them. Well, hello there, villager. Hey. I replied, trying to hide my tension. I'm so screwed. So, what the hell are you doing here? Alosia? I thought it was Alexi, but that's okay. You know how much of a hassle it is to drag ourselves out into this backwater? How the hell did you even find me? Shut your fucking mouth and listen. If you worked longer and honestly, maybe you would have thought to shove your work SIM card somewhere safe. It was the phone! You never bring your phone with you when you're trying to hide out. And didn't you use it near the house registered to you? Mm-hmm. So, we promote you and send you on a big job, and this is how you thank us, running off with our stuff. You know exactly what happens to smartasses like that. Foma, I had nothing to do with this. While I was transporting the stuff, some guys cut me off in a car, and then they robbed me at gunpoint. They took all your shit. What the fuck? You seriously think I'm that stupid? Foma, I've always done my job honestly. This looks like a setup to me. Maybe you sent those bastards yourself, and now you're trying to screw me over. Are you fucking kidding me? Who are you questioning right now? You think it's hard for me to kill you and bury you in this backwater? No one's ever gonna find you here, you dumbass. I'm not trying to act tough, Foreman. Just calm down. How am I supposed to get you the stuff I don't have? I don't give a damn, you bitch. Do whatever you want. Give birth or shit it out. What? Okay. The situation was escalating. I clenched my jaw, feeling my racing pulse pounding in my temples. Oh, I don't know about this. We're not going to fight back. I'm just going to stay silent. We can't fight three guys with a butter knife. This is not going to work. I want the stuff in my hands by morning. Try to run. You won't be able to walk anymore. Well, except to piss and shit yourself. Got it? All right. Got it. Naturally. How are we supposed to get that by morning? Out here. The sound of the departing car's engine started the countdown. I've got apples. Maybe if we just pick a whole bunch. Bastards. Great hang spot. I sarcastically praised myself. Maybe that's like a term of endearment or something for Alexi? I don't know. I'm not sure. Now what? What if I sell the house and use the money to buy drugs to replace the lost shipment? That's a bad idea. It's not going to work. No, selling the house is a hassle. Finding a buyer would take forever. And at best, I'd get $100,000 out of it. Running isn't an option. They'll find me again. Well, just ditch your cell phone. And then I'm really screwed. Shit. What the fuck do I do now? In despair, I grabbed my head. I wanted to tear out my hair and scream, break something. But none of that would help. The helplessness was driving me insane. If the world turns its back on you, go to the forest. There you will find either salvation or death. The forest is honest. Don't listen to Grandma Rita. It's probably the worst. I suddenly remembered my grandma's words as clearly as if her voice were speaking right next to me. What if Grandma was right? What if there was really something out there? I saw it in the forest as a kid. I remember. If Banebush is really there, he'll either kill me outright or help me. Why would he help you? If I'm screwed anyway, what difference does it make? I looked out the window. The forest is honest, I kept repeating to myself, staring at the dark grove. Going there was madness, yeah, but at least I'd have some kind of chance. There is no other way. A few minutes into the journey, the trees closed around me, as if blocking my path. Stepping forward was terrifying, but staying still, even worse. We don't really have much of a choice here. You have completed the second chapter, chapter 3. Clouds, almost completely hidden by the dense canopy of trees, hovered over the endless forest expanse. Moss, soaked with moisture, spread underfoot like a soft carpet, muffling the sounds of footsteps. The air, rich with the scent of soil and decaying leaves, was damp and heavy, setting in my lungs and clouding my mind. The whisper of leaves occasionally snapped twigs underfoot, and the distant cries of birds created the illusion of another dimension. Here, I felt like an insignificant human, an uninvited guest. Thoughts about my past life slowly filled my mind. The endless struggle for money in a quiet corner of a metropolis where each new day brought new challenges. The life of a dealer, full of fear and constant threat of disaster, poisoned the soul, exposing its flaws. I didn't even notice how I became a paranoid person who, on any ordinary evening, expected someone to break into my house. My imagination painted the faces of people whose lives were poisoned in my dealings, their eyes filled with desperate bitterness. Here in the depths of the forest, all of my past felt like a burden dragging me into the ground, to the realization that I had dug my own grave. God, it's unfair. Why do I have to seek salvation now amongst the trees and darkness? What will Banebush do if I find him? If the tale is to be believed, he was a merciless, bloodthirsty creature, angry at the whole world. A maniac who had hidden in the local woods. But what if the tales about Vixie were true, and the Banebush, remembering her, helped the innocent? Like that boy who went into the forest to save the village. If that's the case, I'm screwed. Thoughts about Banebush and its possible protection no longer brought comfort. They only plunged me into new terror. What if he's not an ally at all, but another threat far scarier than any city gangsters? What if I just die here? I don't even know what's worse, surrendering to the cops or venturing into the forest at night to find a Leshy. What a fucking mess. I had ventured deeper into the forest, which had already turned into a trap. I felt like I was in the jaws of a giant rabid dog, which were gradually closing, leaving less and less space to breathe. Every rustle, every creak of a branch made my heart skip a beat in fear. I remember again how my grandmother, sitting by the stove, would quietly tell me her stories. "Remember, Losia, the forest always watches," she would say, looking straight into my eyes. "It knows all of your thoughts, senses fear from a mile away. It feeds on it." Now her words echoed in my head like a warning. Having lost track of time and distance traveled, I tried to suppress the fear within. Suddenly, the deep silence of the forest was pierced by a plaintive howl. I froze. My heart began pounding twice as hard, threatening to burst out of my chest. Holding my breath, I tried to pinpoint where the sorrowful sound was coming from. The howl came again, more insistent this time, as if beckoning me. My heart pounded louder in my chest. An inner voice insistently whispered, "Wandering aimlessly through the forest won't get you anywhere." Obeying the call, I started moving, slowly drawing closer to the source of the sound with each step. Oh, it's a stuck wolf. I pushed through the thicket and emerged into a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. And there in the moonlight quivered the figure of a large black wolf. A trap had sunk deeply and mercilessly into its paws. Whimpering in pain and trembling in a hunched position, the wolf no longer tried to free itself. Its gaze, filled with suffering, pierced me. The animal seemed to hope for my help. Oh, well, what a quest, I thought. I stood frozen, unable to steady my trembling hands as my emotions feverishly jumped from pity to fear. Gathering the remnants of my composure, I approached the wolf. I'm going to save. And I'm going to help the wolf, obviously. Because wolves are cool. No. I'm going to do it anyway. Open. The beast greeted me with a weak growl full of pain and warning. Fear gripped me tightly, paralyzed my movements, but I gathered the last shreds of courage and decided to act. All right, opening this trap barehanded isn't going to work. Good thing I kept the knife with me after all. Ah, hey. Oh God, this is like a huge warning. That's okay, we have a save. Oh no. Click. Oh yeah, we got this. Oh. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Fucking wolf. Why the hell did I even approach it? I ran, feeling like prey being hunted by a predator. The last time I ran like this was a kid in the forest, fleeing from Banebush. I leapt over roots, scraped myself on bushes, and caught dry branches across my face. I didn't know if the wolf was chasing me, but I didn't even think of stopping to check. God, it seems I dropped my knife near the trap in fear, and if I encountered this rabid wolf, I'd be unarmed. Oh, fuck. At full speed, I ran into a clearing and barely caught my breath when a tall, twisted figure appeared amongst the trees. I froze in another wave of terror, praying that the wolf had fallen behind and wouldn't sink its teeth into my back. There wasn't a single sound around, only my heart pounding with all its strength. A creature resembling a twisted human watching me extended a hand in my direction. My sanity slipped farther away, sinking along with my courage. For a while, I watched the silhouette that had frightened me, but it remained motionless. I slowly moved a bit closer. Oh, he's got a mushroom. Yeah, it's a little mushroom. Okay. That's a peace offering, maybe. Unless it's poisonous. It looks poisonous. I mean, it's red. But everything's red. Stay calm. When I finally dared approach, it became clear it was just a tree stump. A nervous chuckle escaped my chest, futilely attempting to shake off the tension. I looked closer at the unnaturally twisted tree trunk. On one of the branches, resembling an outstretched arm, hung a fly agaric mushroom. Oh yeah, those deep red ones. Its crimson hue reminded me of a cigarette ember glowing in the dark. A question echoed in my mind. How could it possibly end up on this branch? As if someone had hung it there just for me. Yeah, the forest seemed especially full of hints today. Am I supposed to eat it? Unexpectedly for myself, I shouted out loud. My voice echoed through the forest and faded away without receiving an answer. Oh, we have to choose? That's a crazy looking stump. And I'm definitely eating that. Mushrooms are great. Empty slot. Okay, cool. We still have 2 more sets of save slots. So that's good. I'm eating the shit out of that. Hum! You ate the fly, Argaric. Garlic. It's not garlic. It's mushroom. Oh, baby, here we go. Oh, fuck yeah. We're blasting off, boys. The bitterness of the mushroom slid down my throat, its pulp reaching the walls of my stomach. The taste of earth and bittersweet slice of the forest filled my insides. My consciousness slowly dissolved, and the images of the trees blurred before my eyes. What better way of getting in touch with the forest than taking mushrooms, you know? I wandered aimlessly through the forest, feeling each step reverberate as a pulse in my skull. The tree canopies closed above my head, their rustling growing louder and merging into a swarm of unnaturally oppressive sounds. The ground beneath my feet felt soft and damp like living flesh, while roots writhed, trying to entangle my legs. Hey! Someone yelled at me from the darkness, forcing me to stop abruptly. My head spun so much that I didn't realize when I had turned towards the sound. Behind the trees, familiar figures began to emerge. Baring their teeth, they grinned predatorily at me as if I were prey. What the fuck, rat? Trying to lay low in the woods? I'll grind you into the dirt with this whole forest. We'll tear you apart and fertilize the ground with your guts. Got it? Nah, we'll slice you up so that every beast in this forest gets a piece. And you'll howl like a beaten mutt. I heard their voices, vile and hoarse, creeping through the thicket. Each sound turned into a burning ember, painfully melting my brain. These creatures weren't human. I hated them to the point of trembling, to the icy venom coursing through my veins. Fucking bastards. I screamed and broke into a run, zigzagging between the trees, just to stop seeing their faces. I ran for a long time, and when my lungs started burning from within, slowed to a walk. The feeling of an alien presence didn't go away. The shadows of the trees moved in sync with my steps, and I felt deep within that someone or something was always watching me from the depths of the thicket. Peering into the darkness, I saw my grandmother. I wanted to rush forward to hug her, but her face, distorted in a horrifying way, suddenly spoke in a quiet, raspy voice. Once, a cowardly boy decided to run away from his troubles. He ventured into the depths of the forest to seek out a leshy to ask for help. That night, inhuman screams could be heard from the other side of the forest. And what happened to him, Grandma? Just listen. That leshy slowly tore that bitch apart while he was still wheezing, and the wolves were feasting on whatever fell to the ground. Grandma, no! Holy shit, bad trip, bad trip, bad trip. Worst trip ever. I wandered recklessly through the dark thicket, sometimes walking, sometimes breaking into a run without regard for the path. I was lost in time and space. My consciousness was being crushed from within, and my legs trembled so much that I could barely move them. The sounds of the forest merged into quiet whispers, creating a single vibration. Suddenly, from all sides, a heavy creaking voice sounded. Why have you come to me? Help! They want to kill me! My plea sounded pathetic. My voice trembled, and my breath came in ragged gasps. The forest was silent. Everything around grew quiet, except for the occasional drops of dew falling from branches to the ground. These were tears of other losers who had come here, like me, and couldn't make it back. The voice crackled again. You're not the first to come to me. Many have sought salvation amongst my trees. Did they find it? My words dissolved into the air. The forest only listened intently, in no hurry to answer. It is alive. The wind was its breath. Its heartbeat was the rhythm of the woodpecker's strikes. its roots intertwined as veins, and millions of worms streamed as blood beneath the earth. You've gone where neither your feet nor your soul should venture. Here, blood soaks into the roots more easily than rain. The forest answered me with a rustle that sounded like laughter. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. No one leaves here in one piece. What are you talking about? What do you want? Is that Leshy? Standing before me was not the monster I had expected to see. He resembled an old man with a thin, twisted body like dry roots, and his skin was cracked, like wood scorched by lightning. His eyes burned with crimson fire, like embers of a dying campfire. His clothing was nothing more than rotting rags, except for a tattered red polka dot scarf on his arm. A black hollow gaped in his forehead, resembling a rotted cavity of a tree, oozing thick, dark sludge. It dripped into the ground, its stench so overpowering it took my breath away. My stomach climbed towards my throat, the air around me filled with the stench of decay, and it had become hard to even swallow. I stood rooted to the spot, jaw slack, staring at the Leshy until his voice jolted me awake. The eye. What? Your eye, worm. A vile soul, but sharp eye. If you found me. When it dawned on me at last what he meant, my legs buckled and my vision darkened. Nausea rose to my throat. I barely held back the urge to vomit. Does he want our eyeball? Is that what he's talking about? Or is he saying because we took the mushroom we're able to see him? I'm not sure. Hopefully it's the latter and not the former. Maybe you need something else? No, he wants our eye. Yeah. Maybe for his third eye. I whimpered the question in a pathetic attempt to bargain with the ancient forest spirit. I wanted to bolt and run, but my legs seemed rooted to the ground, leaving me unable to move. An eye or your life. Choose. Oh shit. Pay. I mean, after you save. Obviously. I will save real quick. Pay. Let's rip our eyeball out of our head. Oh god. My hands jerked towards my face. The will to live tore me apart, screaming like a wounded animal, drowning out even the terror of what was about to happen. I could already feel his sharp, thorn-like fingers digging into my eye socket. I wanted to scream, to beg to a god that I never believed in, but the words stuck in my throat. All that remained was trembling and an all-consuming horror coursing through my veins. My mind simply refused to believe what was happening, but I had already made my choice. I stood there, unable to make a sound, and slightly nodded in agreement until fear snapped me back. The pain was unbearable. The world around me exploded in red light. It felt as if a red-hot hook was driven into my eye socket and started pulling. I heard a squelching sound, like something wet torn away from something sticky. I felt the nerves and veins tearing, the pulsating eyeball being wrenched from my skull. Warm streams of blood ran down my cheek, filling my nose and mouth, choking me with its metallic, nauseating taste. Through the veil of pain, I heard the screams of the creature that brought me here. Their gut-wrenching cries, steeped in primal terror, pierced the forest. One of them screamed as if being torn apart from within. His voice broke into a rasp, replaced by a gurgling wet sound as though his lungs had turned to bloody pulp. Someone squealed like a pig at the slaughter, interrupted by a crunch of bones and tearing flesh. I lay there listening to the Leshy tear these bastards apart, their lives fading one by one. Wow, he made quick work of them. At first I wanted to cover my ears, but then I couldn't. I enjoyed hearing it. My lips stretched into a smile all their own, and my chest felt empty and light. I laughed loudly. Holy shit. That's fucking crazy. Enter. I'm kind of happy with the course that we got. I don't even want to know like what the other courses bring at this point. Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Russian Federation. 707. Oh, are we criminal case? Okay. At some distance from the crime scene, Alexei was found unconscious with a severe injury, his eye missing. According to initial medical examination, Smirnov was under the influence of... How many names does he have? They keep using a different name for him. Alexei was found to be under the influence of hallucinogenic mushrooms. Through a thorough examination of the crime scene was conducted, including photograph and fingerprint collection. It was determined that all the victims died result of multiple wounds inflicted by sharp objects, presumably wooden stakes. Fingerprints belonging to Alexei were found on the bodies. Okay. Blood traces leading to the victims' bodies' locations. Matched blood types. The suspected murder weapon was from a sharpened fragment. I don't know what that word is. It's covered up. I wish this wasn't covered up. It's kind of important information. Based on a collection of evidence and witness statements, the defendant's confession, the results from a psychiatric evaluation. Alexei is to be committed to compulsory treatment in a psychiatric prison. Fuck. You were accused of killing the bandits and left in a mental hospital. You completed the game. The end. I don't know if I like that ending. Let's make some different choices. See what we can do with them. Here, let's start with the mushroom one. Yeah, we won't go back too far. I don't know how... Yeah, this seems like the most influential. So eat it or no. Here, let's no eat it. It was fun. No, that's too dumb even for me. I don't want to experience the full spectrum of forest hallucinations. For a moment, I imagined collapsing here amongst the trees, only to be found by the locals, dead or foaming at the mouth. I grimaced and turned away. The forest stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of identical tree trunks. I'd been wandering for hours, glancing at random landmarks, but none of them seemed familiar. At some point, I decided to go back where I'd seen the mushroom, but I couldn't even find that spot. It seemed as if the mushroom and the strange branch had vanished into thin air, leaving only a sense of anger and helplessness. What a mess, I muttered, leaning against a tree to catch my breath before moving on. As the darkness slowly faded and the shadows that had terrified me disappeared one by one, taking the last echoes of fear with them. With every passing minute, the urge to get out of here grew as strong as my frustration with this failed and downright stupid plan. My legs carried me back to the village, even though every cell in my body screamed that nothing good awaited me there. The forest that I thought would save me turned out to be as empty as my stupid plan. What did I expect? That the Leshy would step out from behind a bush, pat me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, don't worry, pal. I'll take care of your debts." Funny. Even if those tales had any truth, I clearly wasn't their hero. Great walk, I thought mentally, tallying up all the mistakes that had led me here. My head buzzed, and my thoughts darted around, offering no clear solution. They were probably already waiting for me in the village. Those guys didn't leave loose ends. And I looked like the loosest. Fuck, I couldn't even hide properly. Now, there was only one option. Go back and hope they'd at least listen to me before finishing me off. I don't want to... I like the mental hospital one better. Maybe there is no good ending, though. After some time pushing through the dense bushes, I emerged into a small clearing not far from the village. Yeah, here we go. I wonder if we save the wolf, maybe... Oh, actually, what if we saved the wolf and then kept playing and ran away from the wolf? Because the wolf is before... Is the wolf before... Yeah, the wolf is before the mushroom. So if we save the wolf, maybe the wolf would help us. I'm going to try that first, actually. Sorry for interrupting, but I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, here we go. I saved the wolf. Maybe the wolf will jump out and save us. Who would have doubted, I smirked, eyeing the nasty faces that had apparently been waiting for me all night. A desperate urge to retreat back into the thicket flashed through my mind, but it was too late. They'd spotted me. Foreman lifted his head and stared straight at me. Good morning, Alexei. Foreman began with a nasty smirk. What? You couldn't manage to hide? The only thing I was more tired of than wandering the forest was making excuses to them. I didn't manage to. I replied indifferently. Are you fucking stupid? Foreman raised his voice, clearly enraged by my misplaced calmness. We trusted you, and you screwed us over. Where's the stuff, Alexei? Foreman, seriously, listen. I don't fucking have your drugs. You're pressuring the wrong guy. Instead of harassing me, you should be out there looking for the bastards that stole your stuff from me. I remember what they look like. I remember their car. Maybe you should get to fucking work. Oh, okay, that's... Shut up, bitch. That was a little too aggressive, Alexei. Foreman didn't let me finish. You really think you can screw us over? Asking you one last time. Where the hell is my stuff? I've got nothing. Fuck you. I was right. Oh, poor little... And then they shot us. Shit, where did that mutt come from? The hell if I know. Foreman, you okay? I'm pretty shitty. Bleeding out, Misha. Grab the first aid kit from the trunk. And why the fuck did you kill this dumbass? We told you we needed to scare him and shake him down for money. What the hell are we supposed to do with him now? Just forget it. We'll leave him here. The animals will finish him off. Fine, screw it. Get in the car. Let's get the fuck out of here. Aw, the worst ending. The dog did cause a distraction, but it wasn't much. I lay in the dirt, feeling the ground beneath me grow colder. Besides me, the wolf's lifeless body lay still. The sky loomed gray like dark glass, and all I could do was stare at it as the pain began to fade. Everything flashed before my eyes. Noisy days, random faces, big and stupid plans. It all seems so pathetic now. To trade a life for a couple of fuck-ups, someone would probably find it funny. I'd laugh too if it weren't for the burning cold that had already reached my chest. Oh. My life was fading away, pooling with my blood on this cursed clearing. Darkness finally consuming me. The last thing left was a heavy silence from the forest reclaiming its place. You died in the forest with the wolf. What other choice can we make? It's so sad. You completed 2 endings. How many endings are there? I don't know how many endings there are. We can refuse to pay him the eyeball, but I don't think that's going to go well for us at all. Refuse? Fuck. No. Don't come closer. We'll get as many endings as we can. Cowardly rabbit. Oh, he kills us. You did not give the eye to the Banebush. Yeah. Kind of figured that. All right, we're going to have to dig deep and go back further. How about all the way back to where we go to the store instead of to Babushka's house? That sounds good to me. I stopped 5 steps away from the store, which looked almost comically like an island of nostalgia in this forgotten place. I think the best ending we're going to get is the insane ending. Old but sturdy, the peeling grocery sign above the door seemed inviting despite its own appearance. The windows were intact, and through their cloudy planes, you could see the shelves and displays filled with something. The building's age didn't seem dilapidated. Instead, it gave it character. Speaking of quiet confidence and resilience against time, the air around was filled with the same familiar sense of the village. For a moment, I felt like a kid again, coming to the store for ice cream and a waffle cone. Approach. Oh, it's closed. There has to be someone in the store in the village. Hey, anyone there? The sound of my own voice felt deafening in the silence. I kept tugging at the handle, not giving up on opening the door. Hey! Someone called out behind me, and I flinched so hard that I almost lost my balance. Young man, why are you banging on the door? Oh, sorry. I thought the store was still open? It is open. There's just no one inside. Do you need to buy something? Yeah, I wanted to see what you got. Well, come on. I'll show you what we've got. I haven't seen you around here before. You a visitor? I nodded in agreement. What's your name? I'm Alexi, I think. I have 4 names. I introduced myself a bit awkwardly. Ah, Alexi, huh? You want anything? I gritted my teeth. I hated being called. So it's like a term of endearment, but I can't pronounce that. Alexi. Let's just go with Alexi. Well, Alexi. Name's Stefan. Leptev Stepid Volkovich. So pleased to meet you. I wish I knew my own name. I shook hands with my new acquaintance, who seemed to be a local, though I didn't remember him at all. Well, come on. What are you standing around for? Stefan took out a bunch of keys, felt around for the right one, and calmly unlocked the store. I followed him inside and found myself in a dark room. Hold on, Alexi, just a second. What's he fiddling with in the dark? Looking for a sturdy stick to... I'll turn on the lights, just a moment. You from the city? Yeah, I'm from Moscow, I muttered reluctantly. I'm not used to sharing personal details with strangers, but Moscow is so huge that the information didn't really mean anything. Oh, really? So what are the young folks in the capital up to these days? Selling cocaine? Do you have a profession at least? Selling cocaine? Losing cocaine? The question was asked with such intensity that for a moment, I felt like a schoolboy being called to the principal's office. However, I decided not to dodge the answer with partial truth. Yeah, I studied to be an electrician in college. I smirked to myself. No way, I'm telling him about my actual profession. Oh, an electrician. That's a useful trade. You know, my radio recently stopped working. Maybe you could take a look at it, electrician. I can't pay you for the repair. No money to spare these days, but I'll treat you to some tea. Oh, what a gig, I thought to myself with irony. I wasn't ready to return to my real problems just yet, so I wasn't in a hurry. And as long as I can remember, fixing various devices always came easily to me. Nothing too complicated, of course, but I could handle an old radio. I remembered back when I was studying to be an electrician, I went to a couple of practical trainings out of pure curiosity. The job wasn't hard. Maintenance of apartment building, electrical panels. Once I even found a stash that a courier colleague had seemingly hidden quite securely. I glanced at Stefan again. then shifted my gaze to the old radio sitting on the edge of the table. Why not help the old man? Radio is probably one of a very few forms of entertainment around here. All right, yeah, let me take a look. Yeah, it's over there. Go ahead, take a look. Okay, look at it. As I expected, an old radio, clearly made back in the Soviet Union. My grandparents had one like it. I think if I tried, I could probably find it somewhere in their attic. Honestly, I think fixing it shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see what we've got here. Is this going to be a mini game? Oh, it is a mini game. Okay. I think I almost got it. Is that it? Complete. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that was it. Okay. You just said like all the loose pieces have to be fixed. Looks like it's ready. Let's test it. Oh, look, it's working. Well, you've got golden hands. A real craftsman, I can tell. You know, this radio just isn't an ordinary one. One time, there was a funny story about it. My cat back then, Vasya, little black devil he was. And I closed the store and sat down to dinner. Well, sort of. I sat down at the table and gave the cat some soup in his bowl. I turned on the radio, and they're talking about some kind of dance music. I hear Vasya starting to meow, and suddenly, as the music starts playing, he gets up and starts dancing on his hind legs. I laughed so hard. Later, I tried playing the music for him again, but he just gave me a lazy look and went on to sleep. Stefan looked at me as if he was gauging my reaction to his story, but I was just sitting there confused. Thank you, Alexei. We won't die of boredom now, that's for sure. Yeah, it's nothing. I gave a crooked smile and spread my hands. Well, as promised, let's go. I'll pour you some tea. You can tell me how the city folk live these days. I hadn't eaten anything since morning. The old man seemed nice enough, I figured. I wouldn't say no to some tea. I nodded in agreement. Well, that's wonderful. Let's go. How is this going to change our... the dancing cat! Walking behind Stefan into the other room, I could make out an intrusive image of a cat dancing on its hind legs. That's funny. Dancing cat, dancing cat, dancing cat. That's funny. You watched Vyaska dance for an hour. Beautiful. Oh, wow. It's really busy back here, huh? What is this toolkit for, sir? The tools hung in a neat row, looking more like decorations. It's obvious these haven't been used in ages. The rust and dust speak for themselves. Stefan probably used to do a lot of handiwork back in the day. A boar's stuffed head on the wall. I never understood how anyone could like that. It looks silly with those bulging eyes and exposed tusks. It's clear that no one has touched it for years. There's so much dust. An old photo in a crooked frame, clearly not hung yesterday. Who is she? Probably Stefan's mother or wife. She looked as stern as my college instructor. Bottle of murky liquid. Vodka? Oh, is that moonshine? I thought. It looked like regular village hooch, but with the added bonus of a couple of flies floating inside. Gross. Just looking at the bottle made me queasy. Stefan probably forgot about it years ago. I cautiously surveyed the storage room of the shop. The air was thick with the musty scent of wood, sweet mold, and some kind of pickled goods. Stefan, visibly excited by the unexpected company, set about brewing tea. Stefan sat down at the table. He looked at me, barely holding back the questions that were about to burst from him. It was clear that the old man didn't often have guests and was genuinely happy to chat with me. So, how do you like it here? Not many folks from the city wander this way. I noticed how Stefan tried to hide his awkward excitement behind a smile. I smiled back, deciding to keep the conversation going. Yeah, it's really quite different here. Quite homely. Cows and goats. I listed the first things that came to mind. You rarely see this kind of thing in the city. Stefan nodded, lost in thought, still holding his cup. So, what brings you here? I paused to think about how to answer him. Obviously, I couldn't tell him I was hiding here from some shady characters. He might report me to the cops. Okay, so, to get the best ending, I'm just gonna go for it, and we'll just watch the ending. I guess you have to tell Stefan that you're here to buy a house, and then you have to go all the way to chapter 3 with the wolf, and you have to like screw up not letting him out. It's like a secret ending, so I'm just using a guide for it, just so we can get the ending and take a look at what it is. Okay, so I told him that we were here to buy a house instead. Stefan joked back immediately. Looks like he fell for it. Yep, okay, cool. So this gives us a different dialogue tree, I think. I smirked in response to his joke and continued the conversation. I've always been curious about how people live in a place like this. Simply and kind of genuinely, I guess. Life had always seemed good. Fertile land, a nearby river, and a rich forest. People settled down here a long time ago. They lived without trouble, everything seemed fine, but over time, they started noticing oddities. You know, behind such tranquility as ours, there's always some kind of eldritch force. People used to say the forest here is quite alive, guarding these lands. Supposedly, anyone who comes here with ill intent doesn't live long. I believed in those tales. They're just village legends, but there's one, incidentally, that I still remember. I was just a little brat back then, barely able to walk. It was near the end of the war. Beasts of men started raiding the village, looting and kidnapping girls, burning houses. True savages, worse than wolves. Ah, if only Stalin were around to deal with these devils. My uncle was just a boy back then, only a little older than me. His name was Ivan. He saw these beasts burn down the neighbor's house and beat the owner to death with a club. That same evening, my uncle told my mother, "I'm heading into the woods. I gotta do something about this." What he planned to do, he didn't say. All I remember is the wolf howls around the village, didn't stop all night. My uncle never came back. He vanished completely, and so did the bandits. Nobody ever saw them again. It was like the earth swallowed them whole. Naturally, people started whispering that my uncle did something in the woods, and the forest took him, but who really knows? For a moment, I zoned out and processed Stefan's words. They reminded me of something familiar, sending a chill down my spine. Suddenly, I realized my grandmother had told me the same story, disguised as a spooky fairy tale. The hair on my neck stood up. Could it all really be true? So what do you think actually happened? Stefan shrugged thoughtfully. Who the hell knows? Maybe it was wolves, or maybe it was something unnatural. But a similar incident happened not too long ago. A couple of years ago, my family moved here from Moscow. Oh, and then it's just this story again. Okay, cool. So now we have to skip to the wolf part in order to get the best ending? I don't know if it's the best ending, but we'll skip to it. Okay, here we go. So we're supposed to open, and then we fail at once. I hope. I don't want to have to do this all over again. Okay, we failed it once. Sweaty, fear-soaked hands barely held the knife as it slipped off the trap's mechanism. The wolf jerked its paw and snapped its teeth, and I recoiled, barely keeping my balance. The wolf's eyes bore into me, bleeding pain with a strange human understanding, sending a shiver down my spine. It can't be, flashed through my mind, and a conversation with Grandpa in the store surfaced. Yeah, here we go. That same evening, my mom's uncle said, "I'm heading into the woods. I've got to do something about it." All night long, wolf howls sounded in the village without stopping. People started whispering, saying that uncle did something strange and the forest accepted him. So the forest So the forest accepted you, huh? Unexpectedly, I found myself speaking to the wolf. Ivan, it's going to be all right. Don't panic, okay? I'm from Stefan. I'll get you out of this now. Just don't eat me, all right? Okay, now we do it. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's different. Oh, interesting. Cool, you claim the black wolf. When the metallic jaws finally opened with a deafening screech, the wolf pulled its bleeding paw closer. It immediately, as if following a call, trudged into the forest thicket. For a moment, the wolf turned and froze, and staring at me. I froze in response. Cool, so now the wolf will probably come and save us. After the wolf disappeared amongst the trees, I waited for a few minutes, and then I headed in the same direction. Okay, so now what we have to do, choose to free the wolf, and then eat the fly, Algeric. I always figured eating it was the right choice for like the best ending. We're going on a trip again. All right, let's get to the ending. All right, so now we have to pay with our eye, and then this is the ending. Oh crap. I was like clicking and I clicked past a little bit of dialogue, so I could already feel his sharp thorny fingers digging into my eye socket. I wanted to scream, to pray to God that I never believed in, but the words got stuck in my throat. My mind simply refused to believe what was happening, but I had already made my choice. I couldn't make a sound and I was about to nod in agreement, but suddenly the oppressive silence was pierced by a wolf's howl. Okay, so this is the different part. You can see the wolf in the background too. The Leshy turned sharply towards it. The wolf, the huge black beast that I had freed from the trap, emerged from the thicket. His eyes gleamed in the dim light. He slowly approached and stood between me and the Leshy. And here's where we are. So before he could take our eye, the wolf showed up. The moment stretched on like an eternity. I watched as the two beings conducted their silent dialogue. Without words or unnecessary movements, it was as if they were reading each other's thoughts. The Leshy turned away from the wolf and stared at me. His gaze was so heavy, I felt as if I were nailed to the ground. You have helped the forest. Consider that the forest has accepted you. Now serve it. The Leshy's words sounded like a command. It felt as though the entire forest had heard him. You will become a raven, carrying my will. What? Oh no. Did we get turned into a burb? Oh no, it did. I mean, it's either that or get killed by the three goons, so. The pain was unbearable. The bones of my skull crunched, stretching my face, my jaw clenched, turning into a hard beak. My skin split apart, and black patches of feathers emerged. My arms, breaking from within, stretched into wings heavy and wet with clotted blood. My legs caked as if they were twisted into bird claws, which immediately dug into the ground with their talons. My body became light, but it didn't feel alien to me. The world had changed. I'd become something else, broken and reborn. All the sounds around me faded, leaving only a commanding voice in my head, the voice of the master. Let your flight be filled with fury. Let your cries echo over my forest. Let them reach the ears of those who doomed you to this. Let their blood merge with the earth. The night was dark and ominously quiet. My wings glistened in the moonlight as I circled above Foreman's gang, entrenched near the village. Below the shadows of trees, the wolf crept towards them, still limping from the trap. Tonight, every creature will pay for their sins. The wolf struck first, swiftly and mercilessly. His fangs sank into one's throat. Blood sprayed in a fountain, soaking the ground. Terror seized the others before they realized their comrade had already died. Relishing their screams, I dove down. My talons found their mark, sinking into the thug's face. His piercing scream filled me with satisfaction. He tried to fight back, but I was faster, more agile. My beak gouged out his eye. My claw scraped his skin down to the bone, leaving deep gashes. Their bodies fell to the ground, generously feeding it with blood. Panting heavily, I perched on a branch of an old oak. The wolf silently approached me. These creatures are dead. Their sins will rest with them. Let the forest remember this night. Let the darkness remember that I will always be here. Let anyone who dares disturb this place know that it is ruled by Banebush and his loyal servants. Yay, we became a dark servant of the forest. Cool. I think that's the best ending we're going to get. There's a couple of other ones, but they're just kind of like throwaway endings. Good. Well, we got like 3 or 4 endings. I think that's perfect. Wow, what a beautifully written, like gorgeously written and well put together game. Yeah, it's fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been great. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Lone, and this has been Banebush.